Mark Napier is the sheriff of Pima County, Arizona. It borders Mexico. He's a Republican. He was elected the same night as Donald Trump. But he's not a fan of the proposed border wall. He says it's, quote, a medieval solution to a modern problem. Instead of spending money on the wall, the sheriff says the Trump administration ought to give $5 million to his department so he can improve policing on the border. Sheriff Napier joins us tonight. Sheriff, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, Tucker.
So I've heard this line a bunch. You may have thought it up. This is a medieval solution to a modern problem. But it seems that it's really a medieval problem. People sweeping across your borders. Actually, the Romans dealt with it 2,000 years ago. And the solution then was a wall. And the Chinese built a wall. The English built Hadrian's Wall. The Israelis just built a wall. And they kind of work. Why wouldn't it work in Arizona?
Well, there are a good many reasons. One is cost, Tucker. I mean, for 10,000 years, mankind's been building walls around things. And one would think in 2017, with the robust array of technological options that we have, human resources, and other things, that we could come up with a better solution. I am absolutely a proponent of securing the border. My fear is that we're continuing this dialogue of a wall, which to many of us just doesn't seem credible. And in that discourse, we're losing the more serious discussions about how to better secure our border at a lower cost point, perhaps more effectively. And that's my real concern. The porous nature of our border is a national security problem. It's a public safety problem. It's a human rights problem. All manner of transnational crime threats are coming over the border.
Exactly.
Drug trafficking, human trafficking. And about 150 people a year die in the deserts of western Pima County, where I was at a community event last night. I may be one of the only sheriffs in the United States that has an industrial refrigerator outside of one of my district stations, the only purpose for which is the storing of human remains.
I believe
people that die in the deserts.
I've been down there. I've seen it. It's awful, and I agree with everything you just said. But here's what you may not know. Nobody in Washington wants to secure the border. That's why we've never done it, because there's a lot of political pressure. Democratic Party wants more voters. Republican Party wants cheaper workers. It's never happened. So the beauty of a wall is it's permanent, or as permanent as things get. And so why not at least try to do that? If you really think it's a cost to have illegal immigration, why not try that? Nothing else has worked.
Well, Tucker, there are many reasons. One is that there isn't even infrastructure near the ports of the border that we would want to construct a wall to transport the things in the workforce that we would need to secure a wall in a traditional sense. I would much rather that we change the discourse to looking at a wall as an analogous term of an impenetrable barrier that might be in places technology, it might be fixed barriers in other places, it might be human resources, or a blend of all of the above in other places. But there's land use things, topography. We have a Native American reservation here that transcends the international border. And there are just some real problems. There's some environmental issues also.
Right, no, I understand all that, and it would be expensive and difficult. But can you kind of see why voters like the idea of a wall? Because they don't believe you or anyone in Washington. Nobody wants to deal with the problem. They say they do, but they really don't. They really don't. They think it's racist to keep people out of the country. And so, like, they just want concrete evidence that somebody is taking this seriously. I think maybe that's what it was about.
Well, I think, Tucker, I think moreover, it's an easy sound bite. It's easy to digest. When we start talking about the fact there are 380 miles of international border in my state, I'm responsible for about 125 miles of that. It's easy to talk about a wall. It's an easy sound bite to digest. When you start talking about mountains and rivers that flow from the north and tribal reservations, this is a very complex issue, and perhaps that's why we're still dealing with it.
Really? Because you know what's a pretty easy sound bite? What's an easy sound bite, with respect, is that this is a medieval solution to a modern problem. That maybe is the most facile of all sound bites I've heard on it. And the truth is, people don't think you take it seriously. And I'm not saying you particularly, but our elected officials don't take this seriously. Again, you sound like a totally sincere person, but nothing we've done in the past 50 years has really worked. And so what's the guarantee that your solution will be different and will work?
Well, Tucker, rather than holding the county sheriff responsible, let's hold the people in Washington, D.C. responsible. They've been kicking this can down the road for decades. This is my home, Tucker. I live with these problems every day. I've been a law enforcement officer.
But hold on, you're also asking for federal money. You're saying, we don't want to spend all this money. You have deep concerns about the federal budget, apparently. We don't want to spend all this money on the wall. I want money for my department, which is fine. But how do you know that that's going to work when it hasn't worked in the last 5 decades?
we have to have that commitment. We have to change the discourse on this and hold the people in Washington, D.C. responsible. I'm struggling to buy cars for my deputies that are responsible for patrolling 9,200 square miles of my county. So if there's nowhere in this discourse is any discussion about helping border sheriffs and border communities that deal with this problem every day, because Washington, D.C. has failed us under many different administrations to address this problem.
That's true.
It's not a new problem, Tucker, and I've been living with this problem in my home for 30 years.
But by the way, it's not just Pima County, Arizona. I mean, people keep moving. The country's been totally transformed by illegal immigration, not just the border states. North Carolina, nowhere near the border, completely different state. So, I mean,
of course,
all of us have a stake in this. Anyway, Sheriff, thanks a lot for this. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Tucker. I appreciate being on.